You slept for 8 hours. You took the weekend off. You did nothing for 2 days, but somehow still felt weak, drained, and disorganized after all the sleep and time off. That is not laziness. That is a specific neurological problem that rest alone cannot fix, and that most people will spend years misattributing to the wrong cause. The exhaustion you are feeling is not a sleep deficit. It is a different kind of drain entirely. And until you understand what is actually depleting you, every recovery strategy you try will keep falling short. Chapter 1. The 5 real causes of mental exhaustion. Cause 1. Default mode network overactivation. Here is what your brain does the moment you stop doing something demanding. It does not rest, it switches into a high-energy background state called the default mode network, a system of interconnected regions including the medial prefrontal cortex and posterior cingulate cortex that activates during mind-wandering, self-referential thinking in rumination. Researchers at Washington University first mapped this network in 2001 and found that it consumes almost as much energy as focused task performance. This is why lying on the couch scrolling does not feel restorative. Your brain is not idling, it's running a parallel process, replaying conversations, anticipating future problems, constructing narratives about yourself and your circumstances. The content changes, the metabolic cost does not. True cognitive rest requires deliberately suspending default mode activity. Most modern leisure does not do that. It redirects attention without ever giving the underlying system a chance to recover. Cause 2. Decision fatigue and ego depletion. Every decision you make draws from the same finite pool of cognitive resource. Roy Baumeister at Florida State University demonstrated through a series of landmark studies that self-regulation and decision-making share a common resource, and that resource depletes with use. By the time most people reach the end of a workday, they've made hundreds of micro-decisions: what to prioritize, what to say in an email, whether to respond now or later, how to frame a conversation. Each one is small, the cumulative drain is not. The consequence is not just poor evening decisions, it's a nervous system that reads as exhausted even after physical rest because the depletion was cognitive, not physical, and sleep does not fully restore a resource that was never given time to recover during the day. You are not tired from what you did, you are tired from what you kept deciding. Cause 3. Attentional residue. You finished the task, your brain did not. Cognitive scientist Sophie Leroy at the University of Washington introduced the concept of attentional residue, the phenomenon where cognitive resources remain partially allocated to a previous task, even after you've physically moved on from it. In a workday involving constant task switching, email monitoring, and unresolved threads, attentional residue accumulates. By the end of the day, your brain is not managing one thing, it's partially managing 12. Each one holds a sliver of your available cognitive capacity. The aggregate is what you experience as a heaviness that sleep does not shift, because you wake up and the 12 things are still there, still unresolved, still holding their share of your attention. Cause 4. Chronic low-level psychological threat. Your nervous system does not distinguish clearly between physical danger and social or professional threat. The same hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis that activates under physical threat activates under a difficult email, an unresolved conflict, a performance review, an ambiguous message left unread. Each activation releases cortisol. Each cortisol spike requires energy to metabolize and return to baseline. When the threats are chronic and low grade, never severe enough to address directly, never absent enough to fully recover from, your HPA axis runs in a state of persistent low-level activation. Robert Sapolsky at Stanford has documented what this sustained activation does over time: hippocampal degradation, prefrontal thinning, immune dysregulation, and a nervous system that loses its capacity to return to genuine baseline. You don't feel rested because your threat detection system never fully disengaged. Rest did not reach the layer where the exhaustion lives. Cause 5. Passive consumption mistaken for recovery. Streaming a series, scrolling social media, watching highlights, these feel like rest because they require no output. They are not rest. Passive digital consumption keeps the visual cortex active, maintains dopaminergic stimulation, and prevents the kind of quiet that allows the default mode network to complete its restorative cycles. Gloria Mark at UC Irvine just documented how screen-based leisure extends prefrontal fatigue rather than resolving it, because the brain remains in a reactive, stimulus-tracking mode rather than the inwardly directed consolidatory state that genuine recovery requires. You are not recovering, you are distracting. And distraction and recovery are not the same thing, even when they feel identical from the inside. Chapter 2. Why rest keeps failing you. Most recovery strategies address the surface without touching the source. An early night fixes sleep debt. It does not resolve attentional residue. A holiday removes acute stressors. It does not recalibrate a chronically activated HPA axis. A slow morning feels restorative. It does not quieten the default mode network running at full speed. The reason rest keeps falling short is that the exhaustion is not located where you are applying the recovery. You are treating a metabolic problem with physical rest, a cognitive problem with passive leisure, and a neurological problem with time off. None of those pairings match. Recovery works when it addresses the specific mechanism generating the depletion. Everything else is delay. Chapter 3. What actual recovery looks like. For default mode network overactivation, deliberate, structureless time with no input, no phone, no content, no background noise, walking without a destination, sitting without an agenda. The research on mind wandering by Jonathan Schooler at UC Santa Barbara shows that unstructured wakeful rest allows the brain to consolidate, integrate, and reset in ways that content consumption actively prevents. For decision fatigue, reduce the number of decisions you make before the ones that matter. Automate breakfast, clothing, and low-stakes logistics. Front-load your highest priority cognitive work before your decision pool has been drawn down by the day. For attentional residue, close loops deliberately. End each work session with a written capture of where you are and what the next action is. This gives your prefrontal cortex permission to release the task because it has been documented somewhere outside your head. David Allen identified this mechanism in his work on productivity. The science of attentional residue confirms why it works neurologically. For chronic threat activation, the intervention is not relaxation, it is resolution. Address the unresolved conflicts, the ambiguous conversations, the emails you have been avoiding. Each one you close removes a low-level threat signal from your nervous system. The relief you feel is not psychological, it is physiological. For passive consumption, replace 1 hour of screen-based evening leisure with something that requires physical presence in the real world. A walk, a conversation, a craft, anything that engages your body and suspends your visual cortex from screen input. That hour will feel more restorative than 3 hours of streaming because it is actually addressing the system that needs recovery. Your 24-hour challenge. Tonight, after your last piece of work, spend 5 minutes writing down every open loop in your head, every unresolved task, unfinished conversation, pending decision. Get it out of your brain and onto paper. Then put your phone in another room and spend 30 minutes doing nothing that involves a screen. Notice how different that feels from your usual evening. That difference is your nervous system beginning to remember what actual recovery is. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are depleted by mechanisms that your current recovery strategies were never designed to address. Sleep repairs the body. Silence repairs the default mode network. Closing loops repairs attentional residue. Resolution repairs the threat response. The right recovery has to match the right cause. Now you know the difference. That knowledge alone changes what you do tonight. If this is the kind of content you have been looking for, subscribe. Every video on this channel is built the same way. the science underneath the symptom, and exactly what to do about it.